Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Candidates Forum. This Candidates Forum is being put on by the Republican Town Committee and the Democratic Town Committee. And today we have with us in attendance the chair of the Republican Town Committee, Michelle Mills. Thank you for attending, Michelle, and thank you for putting this on. And we also have the chairwoman of the Democratic Town Committee, Kathy Egan, who has put this on for many years. My name is Bob Hayes, for those of you that don't know me, and I'm going to be the moderator for today. If anyone would like to get up and speak, if you have intentions of doing that, please getting up, and if you have a question to ask, please state your name and address so that our viewers can see who you are and how we're going to move forward. So we have several candidates today. I would like to remind everybody that May 18th is Election Day. And the elections are being held at Hanson Middle School, which is a change from McQuon. And I know that we've already had an election in Hanson Middle, but I'd like to remind all voters that it is going to be May 18th, Hanson Middle School. Please exercise your right to vote. And if this airs before tomorrow night, I'd like to also remind everyone tomorrow night is town meeting, 7:30 at Hanson Middle School. And if you want to have any say and what goes on in the town, please attend town meeting. It's very important. We're going to need a quorum. There's a lot of business we need to take care of, and we most certainly would appreciate everyone to come in attendance. I'd like to see us have 500 people, but I haven't seen that in a long time. So anyway, we have a bunch of uncontested races, so we're going to get right at it. There is a term for an assessor, and we have no candidate. So if anyone would like to come forward, I believe it's still time. You can do a write-in for any of these uncontested positions. We also have Housing Authority. It's a 4-year term. There is no candidate for that position. And the Housing Authority needs a candidate just like the assessors do, because sometimes if you don't have people out, you don't have a quorum and you can't tend to business that day. Also, there is no candidate for the Board of Health. And the Board of Health hasn't had a full board in Hanson in quite some time. And I know that there are times when they need a quorum and they can't do it. If you do not have a quorum, you can't do business. So we have some candidates that are running for re-election. Water commissioners, we have Mr. Donald Howard. He lives at 860 Winter Street in Hanson. He is up for re-election. We also have Mr. Gilbert Amato, who I believe is also up for re-election. He lives on 205 South Street in Hanson. And every candidate that's running, whether they're here today or not, I applaud them coming forward, because in today's day and age, with social media and what's going on, this could be part of the reason we don't have candidates. So I do value everyone that's running for a position. These are all unpaid positions, and it's very, very, very important to run the town with elected officials. So next up is Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. Running for re-election are Chris Howard from Aquinas Drive in Hanson. He has sent me a written statement, so I'm going to read it. Good afternoon. I have asked Bob Hayes to read this statement on my behalf. My name is Chris Howard, and I'm seeking re-election for the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee. I initially ran and continue to run for school committee because I think the education of our young citizens is one of the most important obligations of any community. During my initial term, I learned quite a bit. I served on several subcommittees, including the Superintendent Search Committee, the Policy Subcommittee, and the Regional Agreement Subcommittee. I regularly attend our meetings and was fully engaged, listened to my committee members, and tried to build a consensus to do what was in the best interest of the children of our district. When I first arrived, given my financial service experience, I was convinced that with a budget of nearly $50 million, there was much more room to do more with our existing budget. I quickly learned that education is an expensive endeavor. I learned the district is in a tough spot given the increases in the cost of education and the minimal increases in revenue. I learned that what we spend in terms of per pupil expense is at the very bottom 10 for all of the cities and towns in Massachusetts. Just this year alone, we expect costs for only special education to be increased by over $1 million. When the dust settles on our current budget process, it is very likely, in my opinion, that just the increased cost for special education will represent more than half of the budget increase in the next year. I strongly believe that how the U.S. handles special education is one of the things that makes this country so great. The state mandates that we provide these services. However, we need to provide these services because it's the right thing to do. The lack of additional state funding is hurting our district. I also believe that we should continue to fight for additional funding from federal and state government. We may not see any material changes in funding for years. Unfortunately, that means the cost of education will be borne by the taxpayers of Hanson and Whitman. I'm a strong advocate for Hanson and believe we have a great community. I have lived here most of my life, and my children are now attending schools that I previously attended. So much has changed within the school system since I attended during the years of 1984 through 1996. I would encourage any person in this town who questions what happens in the schools to visit a school to witness firsthand the requirements of today's delivery of services, as well as the changes in the classrooms themselves. I would gladly bring anyone on a tour, coordinating with our administration, of course. I am proud of our community, which not only includes our schools, but also police, fire, highway, and several other service departments. I don't believe these departments should be pitted against one another during our budget season, but rather that we should develop a long-term plan to enhance our student services while maintaining and improving our other town departments as well. While this is an elected position, I honestly don't view this as a political position. I'm a political science undergraduate, so I do understand politics. I serve on the school committee because I believe in the purpose of the committee. As a registered independent, my passion is to represent our community and ensuring that students of our district receive the best possible education. Thank you for your consideration in my candidacy for re-election to the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. Respectfully, Chris Howard. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm reading this for him. Chris couldn't be with us today, so thank you, Chris, and good luck on your re-election bid. We have another candidate for Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, Mike Jones. He lives on 429 Elm Street in Hanson, and he is here. Mike, would you like to come up?
It's not as long as Chris's, so stay with me. Hi, I'm Michael Jones, and I am running for a school term for Whitman-Hanson School Committee. I've lived in town for over 30 years and now raising two children who are now in the schools now. In the last term, in my first term, I was involved with Whitman-Hanson budget, union negotiations, and selecting and hiring a new superintendent. I've yet to miss a meeting in the last 3 years. I strive to be there on time, be due diligence, and work with the repairs and anything in construction that's moving on with Indian Head, the middle school, or the high school. I look forward to continuing advocating for our children for the next 3 years, and thank you for your vote.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Jones before he has a seat? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the Housing Authority. Teresa Santalucia lives at 517 Washington Street in Hanson. She is up for re-election, and may I say, she has served 2 5-year terms that are the longest terms of any elected official in the town. So thank you for your previous experience in looking for being re-elected to a 3rd term. Thank you. Thank you for coming also.
Thanks, sure. So hi, my name is Teresa Santalucia, and I'm running for a 3rd term at the Hanson Housing Authority. I actually serve with Mike Jones, who is also on the Housing Authority. This is my 3rd term. I'll tell you that I first ran for the Housing Authority because I am an attorney that works in affordable housing issues and community development issues. So it was an area that I'm familiar with and that I'm interested in. That's why I initially ran. I am running a 3rd time because I've had a really great experience in serving on that board. I have appreciated my fellow commissioners through the last 10 years. I have particularly appreciated the residents that I've worked with here in Hanson who not only come to our monthly meetings, but often even bring snacks and participate routinely. And so I really feel very committed to the residents who do live in the facilities that the Hanson Housing Authority manages. I am particularly proud of some of the activities that we've done in the past few years. One of which was we hired the Brockton Housing Authority to manage the Hanson Housing Authority. And that was a wonderful opportunity for the Hanson Housing Authority to kind of standardize its process, really take advantage of some of the resources that the Brockton Housing Authority has available. And we have been really happy with their management. The other thing that happened this past year, which we had been looking forward to do, was the creation of a housing production plan for Hanson. So we worked cooperatively with the Community Preservation Committee and obtained funding for consultants who went through a year-long planning process. We had several workshops for the community, and a housing production plan is in its final stages, and I think will be approved by the selectmen in the next meeting, maybe in 2 meetings. And with that plan, Hanson can incorporate it into some of its other planning initiatives, and also maybe able to take advantage of some funding opportunities to help increase affordable housing in Hanson. So I'm again seeking election for a 3rd term to the Hanson Housing Authority.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes.
Is your affordable
Could you
housing-
please,
Oh,
I'm
Jack
sorry,
Concrete,
thank you.
Blueberry Farm, West Washington Street. Sorry.
And I'm on West Washington
You're-
Street too.
I know
You said
you're-
Washington, but
Oh, I'm
very-
sorry. Yeah,
very
it is
proud of
West
the
Washington.
West,
I
you know?
drive by it every day, Teresa.
Is your plan for Hanson including affordable housing that includes Section 8?
Yeah, so the Hanson Housing Authority has several programs already in place. One that most people are aware of is Meeting House Lane, which is on County Road, Route 14, which is 68 units of state public housing for elderly and disabled. Then we also have a facility on Woodbine Ave, which is for adults who have mental disabilities. There are 8 units there. We also have LZ Thomas, which has 6 units, and that's federal family public housing. And then we have currently 25 vouchers, and those are Section 8 vouchers. And those are given to individuals who then can go out and use them where they can find rental housing. Unfortunately, we don't have very much rental housing here in Hanson, and so people are forced to take those vouchers into other communities. One of the things that we looked at the housing production plan are what are some of the housing that we do need here in Hanson. And the biggest results from that study was we need housing for seniors, we need some initial family starter homes, and we need additional rental housing so that people can stay in Hanson. We're finding a lot of seniors are wanting to downsize, and there's not a place for seniors to go in Hanson to downsize. So one of the things that there's one other job that the Housing Authority takes on, and that's after a 40B project is completed, we're the monitoring agent. So if there's an affordable unit, before they sell it to another eligible purchaser, we certify that to try to keep those units affordable going into the future. So one of the things that the Housing Authority has been trying to do is kind of look at other resources that are out there to provide additional affordable housing, whether that's through vouchers or other programs.
Does anyone else have any questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thanks
And
very
thank
much.
you for serving.
You're welcome. Thanks.
I'm going to move back to water commissioners because I see Mr. Howard has entered the room. And would you like to come up, Dawn, and make a statement?
Why not?
I must say, Mr. Howard has served this town in many capacities for many, many years, from selectman to water commissioner to doing just about anything possible in the town. I know he's been a lifelong resident, and I have to say, a good guy, and I'm proud to say that he's sitting beside
Well,
me.
thank
so.
you. Thank you,
Dawn,
Bob.
thank you.
I came over here today really basically to update the town on the water system. But before I do that, I'll say I've been working in water since 1957. So it goes back a few years. And 20 years ago, my son Darrell married Gail Dempsey up on Puritan Drive, and I happened to notice a little brook that went by their property. So I didn't say anything to anybody then, but so forth. And in 2008, I think I ran for selectman, and I was here 10 years. I didn't get voted in last last year, was it? I think it was. Yeah, 18, yeah.
Yep.
So I served 10 years as selectman for the town. But getting back to the water, about 5 years ago, I've been retired since 2007. And I took a walk up through the woods up off East Washington Street from Puritan Drive to Old Pine Drive and up in the woods there. And I discovered there was a large amount of water continually running there 365 days a year. So while I was in the water department, I kind of enticed him into looking forward into it and looking a little further. So right now, up on the end, if you go in Old Pine Drive off East Washington Street, at the first intersection, you'll see a new road that goes off through the woods. And there's a gate there also. But there's a 1,700-foot road that runs up in there in the woods. And there's 2 wells that we drilled last fall up there in the area. And actually, there's 2 wells. There's the one on the right, the well is 600 foot deep, and the water is bubbling right out of the 8-inch casing. And it runs 24 hours a day. And the other well is about 150, maybe 200 feet away that they drilled. We were going to have 2 of them, which we do have 2, but they got down around 300 feet, and the drill rig disappeared. It just dropped into a cavern. So they stopped drilling, and they pulled out the well rig, and I don't know, it was a month or so later, they put a pump on it, and they pumped it for 24 hours, and they got 300 gallons a minute out of it for 24 hours, and it dropped the water level. I think it was around 53 feet that it dropped down to, and it just held there, it just stayed there. So that you can see it's 400,000 gallons of water in 24 hours. And the water that was bubbling out of the first well dropped down. So we think that it's in the same aquifer water up there. So we're going to pump that well also. So after we get that done, we're going to, somehow or another, we're going to put a treatment plant up in there somewhere in the area. Because the state now requires that most of the wells are all going to have a treatment plant. And as you know, prices rise, and so I think it's the time that the water department's going to put in a treatment plant for that section of Hanson up there. For the simple fact that the other wells down on for Franklin Street and Main Street, eventually they're going to have a treatment plant also. But by having this amount of water up here, if we had the 2 wells hooked together, we got a good possibility of getting 600 gallons of water a minute out of there. So that Hanson actually basically will be set for forever. Because I'm one person in the water department that I don't want to have to buy water from Brockton anymore. Because in 2014, when we had that tank rejuvenated on High Street, it cost us $340,000 we had to pay Brockton for the water that we used for the 3 months while the tank was being revitalized. And I had the girls in the office go back and see how much electricity it would have cost us to run our own pumps to pump that amount of water, and it was only around $40,000. So you can see why the water department doesn't want to buy water from Brockton. So that's what's going on now, and we're in the process of having them, well, they've got to do a 10-day test also up there. So that's what's going to be done this year, and hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be in the process of maybe finding a location in that vicinity that it won't be anywhere near any residents, because there's 60 some odd acres of land up in there that we can have the treatment plant built, so that, and it won't bother anybody anyway, because there won't be any sound from it. And that's what's going on, and I just wanted to let the Hanson residents know what's going on with the water department. And it won't cost any more on your taxes, because you'll pay your bills through the water department. And also, right now, during the process, we're installing new meters throughout the town of Hanson. We have, at this point, we have three different types of meters. Some of them you have to read by the meter, and the other ones are electronically read by just driving by. So that we started it, I think it's 2 months ago, and we've got over 1,000 meters now installed. In fact, I got the letter yesterday in the mail to call up and make a reservation to have my meter installed. So that by the end of the year, hopefully, the whole town will have all new meters. And therefore, we can use one person just to drive around and read meters. It simplifies everything and makes the cost a lot less. We can have the other people work on different jobs instead of 4 people going out every 6 months and reading meters. So that's about what's going on with the water department. If there's any other questions, I'll gladly try to answer them.
Kathy Pasqua, Egan, 63 Montponton Street. Don, just checking on 2 things. One is, do you think at some point we'll be able to build a second water tank to take the repair of the first water tank or whatever, so that we don't have the problem that we had the last time if we have 2? And also, will we be able to eventually replace all the really old pipes that we have in town?
Yeah. That's a process that's going to take a long time. I just had my birthday yesterday. I wish I could live 100 years, but it'll never be done in 100 years. The Hanson Water was, I think it was started in 1918. And then they got up to, what was it, 1990. And I think that's when we went from Brockton Water onto our, because they drilled Crystal Well up there off of Franklin Street. And they were just pumping from that one, and they in turn put 3 other wells up there. And what they were doing is just using the wells and pumping the water through the water mains. But that's when they put the water tank up there in the end of 1990, I think, or 95 or something, in that period of time. But I'm going to have another water tank put up there also, another 1 million gallon one. I don't know if it'll be the same type. I don't know if it'll be a vertical one or it'll be the same type of golf ball one that's up there. But by doing so, it's 1 million gallons of water, and we can operate off of one tank with 1 million gallons of water. So when the tank is going to be rehabbed in another 25 or 30 years, we'll have a tank up there that we can operate on while we refurbish the tank and save the money. Because by that time, the money of water is going to be probably 10 times more than what it is now. So there'll be two water tanks on High Street, plus a new treatment plant that we're going to try to, well, I know it's going to be up off of East Washington Street. And after that, I don't know how long I'll be living, but so forth. And to replace all the pipes, some of it's been done now, Kathy, and but you've been using those pipes now since 1918. The old cast iron pipes that are in there, if there's a continual flow of water through it, you don't get the sediment. So that you'll be able to go on, if you've got new water supply and you'll be pumping it from 2 different areas, the water's going to be cleaner, and it's going to help everybody in the town of Hanson. But the problem now is, I don't think, well, since I've been there, last year was the first year that they actually did a really proper flushing system. And they are doing it now. I think most of it's going to be in the north end this year because everything else was in the south end. But to do it properly, you should do it twice a year. In the fall, it should be flushed, and every hydrant should be operated. And then in the springtime, you skip every other hydrant and you reflush it again, so that it'll keep the water fresh in the town, in the water pipes in the town of Hanson. What happens is when you do get sediment in it and it's not properly watered, flushed, any settlement in the pipe, like if you've got a street in front of your house and you've got a dip in a road in it, if you don't have a heavy flow of water through there, like opening up the big steamer fitting on the front of the hydrant and get the flow of water through it, the water moves through the center of the pipe with no friction. But the water on the edges of the pipe has friction on it so that you're not getting the movement on it. And in these little dips and hollows that has the sediment in it, doesn't come out unless you open it up. Actually, we used to do it where I worked previously. We used to open 2 or 3 of those hydrants at the same time to get a good flow of water through the pipe so that it cleans it out, very well. So, as I'm reelected, and if I get back in, which I know I will, but that's a system we're working on now. So that hopefully with the end of, I'll say in the end of another 3-year term, we should have another water tank, we should have a treatment plant, and the flushing will continue, and we are replacing some of the pipes. So if that answers your question, I hope it does.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, question. Would new pumps, new wells go in, new system to clean, does that water then have to be pumped all the way up to the tower?
No, well, it will be eventually. No, what happens is the two wells will be connected together, and they'll be put through to a treatment plant somewhere either near Old Pine Drive or somewhere up near the middle of the. It's nice land up there. I really don't want to destroy it, and it's a good walkway. But once the treatment plant it is, you pump the water to the treatment plant, filter the water, and then you pump it into the system. And all you have to do is connect it into where Old Pine Drive is on East Washington Street is connected to East Washington Street, but also it goes through the woods and connects to Brook Street, so that by connecting to the pipe that's already in the ground, the treatment plant will be connected to that, and you'll be pumping new water from the treatment plant either to Brook Street or to East Washington Street. So you won't have to because we won't have new pipes all the way up to the tank. You'll use the existing pipes that you have to pump it into.
Okay, well, as you can see, Mr. Howard has a vast knowledge of this water system, and we thank him for his service. Serious.
There's one thing, though. They never installed gates. I'll have to say this much. Winter Street and East Washington Street, I live up the street from it, and then State Street. There's Christopher Lane, there's Harvey Circle, there's Wagon Trail, there's, what's the next one? Laurie Lane, Slade Drive, okay? Then across the street, you got Old Pine Drive, and you have Puritan Drive, the one my son lives on. There's only 9 gates. In other words, they use this tap and sleeve business. It's cheaper, it's quicker, but the towns that I used to work for, we used to make them put 3 gates in. Because if you put 3 gates in, you can supply water from each end to go to whatever property you might have to shut off for a water main. And like I say, there's 9 gates between East Washington Street and State Street. And if you actually put it in the way it should be put in, there should be 20. And that's another problem we have in Hanson. There isn't enough gates. And when you have a water break, you have to shut down 20, 30, 40. Sometimes we had one on East Washington Street. We had to shut off 180 homes just to repair it. But by doing that, we put a gate in place. There's 10 now instead of 9, because we put a gate in so that at least we cut the half down in half if there's another break on East Washington Street. That's the only other thing I'll say.
By a gate, Mr. Howard, because I'm sure that there are people watching. A gate is kind of like the shut-off valve so you can get in the middle, am I correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, kind of like when you shut the water off. The more gates.
Well, the more gates you
access.
have more control of water. You take Whitman or Brockton, if you run through the intersections there, you'll normally see 3 or 4 gates at every intersection. Any crossroad, there's 4 gates. Any 3 roads, there's 3 gates. So that when you have some problem in one of the streets there, it's just a small amount of homes that are affected.
Mr. Howard, again, thank you for your vast
No,
knowledge
thank
on
you.
the subject. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
And more than ever, thank you for all of your service to the town of Hanson.
Well, I'm retired, so I got enough.
Okay. Next seat is the planning board, and Mr. Ellis from 742 High Street is running for re-election, and I think Mr. Ellis has served the town for many, many years. So good luck and thank you. Town clerk, we have one person running. Our current clerk is Elizabeth Sloan. She is running for re-election, and I believe that Mr. Egan is going to read a statement for Ms. Sloan. So Mr. Egan would come forward. Thank you, Mr. Egan.
Thank you, Mr. My name is Elizabeth Sloan, and I'm running for my 4th term as your town clerk. I apologize for not being able to attend today's forum, but I would like all of the voters to know how much I appreciate their support. I love my job and enjoy interacting with residents on a day-to-day basis, as well as at our town meeting and especially at the elections. I would be grateful if you could take some time on Saturday, May 18th, and come out and vote. The polls will be open from 10 until 5. Thank you, and come by the town clerk's office and say hello.
Mr. Howard,
Are they gonna have that, open again in the clerk's office for voting?
It's already open.
Yes.
it is open.
You mean during the week?
Yes.
Yes,
for special
hours.
It's already open.
If you need to absentee ballot, I believe you can go to the clerk's office during whatever
Yeah, we
hours that
did
the
it last
clerk's
time.
office is open, and you can vote. And we encourage you to do so. The more voting, the better. If you don't vote, you have nothing to complain about because you didn't voice your opinion. This is what democracy is about, so please come and vote. Next up is a tree warden, Mr. David Hanlon, 1018, Box 1018 in Hanson. He has been the tree warden for several years, and he is running for re-election. And he's running unopposed. Public trustees for the library, there are 2. Diane McDivitt, 630 Goldwyn Drive, and Pamela Fager, 167 Woodbine Avenue. They are both running unopposed. I am not sure if they are both currently public trustees, but I believe that they are, so good luck to both of them. And all of these people that I'm reading their names, as I said when I started, thank you for coming forward and serving the town of Hanson. We need you. Cemetery Commissioner Kelly Wardman on 71 Chandler's Mill Road in Hanson is running unopposed. Selectmen, if you noticed, I had picked my phone up and looked. Mr. Mitchell is trying to send me a message to read, but unfortunately, until we get the tower up at the middle school, I have no service here at the town hall. So I was looking, and he's probably somewhat frustrated that he couldn't get me, but Mr. Mitchell is running, I believe, for his 2nd term for Board of Selectmen. He is current selectman. He lives at 75 Hawthorne Street in Hanson. Good luck to him. And last but not least, Sean Keeley of 131 Home Street is running unopposed for moderator. The moderator, ladies and gentlemen, is the man that you see with the big gavel on town meeting floor. And speaking of town meeting, we will be holding town meeting tomorrow night, May 6th, at Hanson Middle School. It starts at 7:30. If we get a quorum, we urge everybody to get in, get a quorum. We'll get our town's business taken care of and maybe get to see the 3rd period of the Bruins game. So ladies and gentlemen, please try to attend tomorrow night. That's the list of candidates. And again, I want to thank both the Republican and the Democratic town committees for hosting this year to year. Sometimes it's much better attended. This year we don't have any races going on, so there's a few people here. But without democracy in the town of Hanson, you know where you would be. So thank you all for attending. Joe O'Sullivan, he's the man behind the camera back there. He comes and volunteers and does the sound and the camera. He's waving at me. Joe, thank you so much for doing that. We appreciate your volunteerism over the years and your input. And again, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to vote. It's your basic right. We'll see you tomorrow night, 7:30, town meeting. Thank you very much for watching this show.